Hello students, secondary 1 chemistry. We now are still in quantitative chemistry unit 2. The lesson now is determination of the empirical and molecular formula. Each compound that you know has many formulas. Two of the formulas of the compound are needed now: empirical formula and molecular formula. The molecular formula represented the actual type and number of atoms in a molecule, while empirical formula represented the simplest ratio of the number of atoms of each element in the molecule of the compound. It's easy to convert molecular formula into empirical formula just by simpling the number of atoms in the molecule. For example, if you simplify the number 3 and 6, you get CH2. CH2 is the simplest ratio of the number of atoms of carbon and hydrogen. You must look for the common factor between 3 and 6. 3 is the common factor between 3 and 6. So if you divide this formula over 3, 3 over 3 gives 1 carbon atom, 6 over 3 gives 2. So CH2 is called the empirical formula of the molecular formula C3H6. This compound is called propene. This is another formula, another molecular formula of another compound called ethene. If you want to convert the molecular formula of ethene into empirical formula of ethene, just divide over 2. 2 is the greatest common factor between 2 and 4. So dividing over 2, you get CH2 also. CH2. In the same way, if you want to convert the molecular formula of this compound called the ethine into the ethine empirical formula, just divide over 2. Over 2 gives CH only. So CH is called the empirical formula of ethine compound, which had the molecular formula C2H2. Now, if we want to convert the molecular formula of this compound called the aromatic benzene into to get the empirical formula of aromatic benzene, you can divide over 2. You can also divide over 3. You can also divide over 6. Which one will you divide? You must divide over 6. 6 is the greatest common factor of the two numbers. So dividing over 6 also you will get CH. So CH is also the empirical formula of the aromatic benzene C6H6. The same way, this is glucose. This is a type of sugar called glucose. The common factor, the greatest common factor between these numbers 6, 12 and 6 is also 6. So dividing over 6, dividing over 6, you get CH2O. The water, it is a molecular formula of water. If you want to get the empirical formula of water, H2O, H2O. This 2 and this one has no common factor between 2 and 1, so it's the same. This is the same H2O. CO2 is the same CO2, no common factor between 1 and 2. N2O5 is the empirical formula, no common factor between 2 and 5. CH4 is the same, no common factor between them. CH3 If CH3 is the empirical formula of a certain compound, if you want to get the molecular formula, it's not easy because you don't know what is the number which, when multiplied by CH3, you get which number. So if you multiply by 2 you get C2H6. If you multiply by 4, C4H12. If you multiply by 5, C5H15, and so on. So this number that you must multiply must be given. This number is called the number of empirical formula unit. The number of empirical formula unit denoted by small n. This small n is called the number of empirical formula units. This number, if known, multiply this number by 1 and by 3 to get the molecular formula of this compound. And this is the same way here. This is the definition of molecular formula, expressing the actual number of atoms, while empirical formula represented the simplest ratio for integers. If the molecular formula of vitamin C is C6H8O6, then its empirical formula, to get the answer, look for the greatest common factor between 6, 8, and 6. This is clear that this is 2. So 2 is the greatest common factor between 6, 8, and 6. So over 6 over 2, 8 over 2, 6 over 2, you get 6, 3, H4, O3. 3, 4, 3. This is the answer. This is the answer of this question. In the same way, the empirical formula of this compound, look for the common factor, greatest common factor. Here is 2 over 2 over 2 over 2. You get 2, 4, 1. 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1. This is the answer. This is the answer of this question. A compound has empirical formula C4H12. Find its empirical formula. Look for the greatest common factor, which is here 4 over 4 over 4. You get CH3. So the answer here is CH3. Number of units of empirical formula N. This is 4. The answer here is 4 because you divided over 4 over 4. So N is the number of empirical formula units, which is 4. The number of empirical formula units of this compound is over 2 over 2. So 2 is the common factor. The common factor is called the number, the formula units, number of formula units. So this is the answer of this question. The empirical formula CH2O represents the molecular formula. It is clear that if this is the empirical formula, this empirical formula can represent the first one. It can also represent the second one, 2 carbon atoms, 4 hydrogen atoms, 2 oxygen atoms. This is the molecular formula, and this is the empirical formula of the same compound. So the answer may be this one. Also here, if this is a molecular formula, dividing over 6 over 6 over 6, you get this. So this empirical formula can represent A, B, and C. So all the above questions, of the above answers. This is the answer of this question. A compound has an empirical formula, this one. Find the molecular formula if the number of units of the empirical formula is 2. This is N, and this is the empirical formula. Multiplying the empirical formula by 2, you get the molecular formula. So CH multiplied by 2, you get C2H2. C2H2 is the molecular formula of this compound. Thank you for listening and goodbye.